People are too afraid of death, aren't they? Now, I'm not sitting here with a gun to my head saying, don't be afraid of death. However, when I'm making life choices, I've been freed up from certain aspects of fear. So when someone says, I can't go out, I may die of lightning strike or an illness. Yeah, those two statements don't necessarily go together. You can go out, and it's a literal truth that you might die of this or that, a freak accident, a cataclysm, a traffic incident. And that's the way it is. Now, the way I find peace with it is that I acknowledge a higher truth and that I'm in some sort of divine plan. And when I pray, I align with the will of God. Now, Gurdjieff talked about becoming free of the law of accident, and I believe that is a thing too. Of course, he famously got into a car crash that kind of derailed his life. Was that an accident? We don't know. However, the point is that you might die, and that's okay. Like, isn't death a transition? A lot of the indoctrinated programming we go through makes us very, very afraid of death. If you're very afraid of death, you're very easy to control. Right? Because there's this threat like you could die. I am suddenly your slave. So living as a slave is akin to a fate that's worse than death. So free yourself now. And part of what does this, or part of what has done this for me, is freeing yourself from your worst fears. So what are your worst fears? Like, I had a fear of going hungry as a starving artist. So everything was like, I need to get enough blah, 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 blah financial income so I don't go hungry. So I started experimenting with fasting, and I worked up to a 10-day water fast, and I've done a 7-day dry fast. I've done a 21-day juice fast and a master cleanse technically. And those all freed me up from that fear. I'm no longer afraid of going hungry because I know I can spend 7 days without food or water and control the stress in the mind and all these other pieces so that I am free of that fear. Another fear a lot of people have is cancer. And in healing my own body, I've studied like 20 cancer modalities and tested out the Gerson therapy, juicing, fruitarian diet, all kinds of coffee enemas, all kinds of processes that help clear out the body and reverse some of those mechanisms. So I no longer have that fear. I have these resources where I know when I go into that diagnosis, which I don't trust diagnoses at all, then I'm empowered to get out of that. So some of these freed me up. Similarly with most diseases, I just don't have that kind of fear anymore. I know there are all kinds of solutions. So what's your worst fear? And how can you get out of it now so that you're no longer a slave to the system? That's the question.